So I just moved back to Ohio and realized that it was a terrible mistake. And I got a job that I absolutely hated, and thankfully I was laid off from there after 6 months because it was backbreaking and extremely exhausting. I'd get home from work at the end of the day and collapse to the floor before I could even get to my bed at that time. And so I ended up finding another job. I worked for a wholesale popcorn company for 11 years, and they were actually a really great company. And while I was working for them, they helped me start businesses. They helped me, they helped me go to college. They helped me do a lot of things, as a matter of fact. And they even let me study while I was working. And I don't know of any other employers that let their people do that. I mean, the benefits were great. And even though the job itself, what I was doing for them was extremely labor intensive, I couldn't ask for a better company to do it for. And I still have a relationship with them today, as a matter of fact. Anyway, so after going to college, I go to college taking everybody else's advice and, doing all this other stuff, taking everybody else's advice to try and, better my life and move forward. And I realized that you can't take people's advice hardly ever, as a matter of fact, because they actually are just giving you advice through their own lens, right? And don't get me wrong, some of it may be applicable and some of it may be true, but you obviously have to use your own personal filters there to make sure it's correct, not just take that information just because of the source. But anyway, so yeah, I did all these things to try and move forward, right? Working my butt off, again, still working several jobs, starting businesses that failed, all of them, as a matter of fact, some very fast, most of them pretty fast. But anyway, after about 5, 6, 7 years of working there, the realization hit me that I was no longer ever going to be able to get my criminal record expunged. And that was a horrible realization, and it made me realize that all my time in school was a waste. I mean, I wasn't even getting calls back from jobs that I was applying to at the time, which, by the way, probably totaled in the thousands, 3,000-4,000 jobs I bet I applied to up there, and I think I got 2 or 3 callbacks out of all those jobs, and maybe 1 interview. Anyway, so I get to the point where I'm in my late 20s and I am in a very dark place. In fact, on my 29th birthday, I didn't want to go in any longer. And for whatever reason, I did. And, I held it together as best I could. And a year or 2 later, I ended up meeting a girl. Or not meeting a girl, running into a girl, actually, who was in some of my college classes. And she's like, hey, I can get you a part-time job, because at this point I was actually looking for a part-time job. This is 2011, 2012. I'm still working for that popcorn company. And she goes, hey, I can get you a part-time job selling newspaper subscriptions door to door. By the way, this is January, I think it was 2012. And it is a long, hard winter this year. Lots and lots of snow, very cold. And so I accept it, and under the hopes of possibly hooking up with that girl, and also, of course, earning money. And anyway, so I find myself doing door-to-door sales in the middle of blizzard conditions in Ohio. That's how desperate I was at this point to move forward in my life. And she actually invites me over one day after working, she and I worked directly together. After working directly together one night, she invites me over to watch a movie. I'm like, oh yes, finally, it's gonna happen. And we get over to her house, and she turns it on, and it's a movie called The Secret. And it made me, oh yes, I forgot to mention that I have been studying philosophy for these years, but mostly self-improvement and economic philosophy, as well as political philosophy, for quite a few years actually at that point, since I was about 21. So about 8 years. And whenever I watched the movie The Secret, it connected the dots on these philosophies I had been watching, and it took maybe 2 minutes into the movie before I literally started to break down crying. And from that point forward, I improved my life dramatically. In fact, within a few months, I was actually promoted at the company I worked for. I ended up getting another part-time job that I liked better. My job at that company I worked for was a lot better than it had been. And I started realizing that I can truly rebuild myself and move forward and have the life I want through philosophy, my own philosophy, not just any philosophy, not just taking one particular philosophy and saying this is mine. But I started researching philosophies deeply, religions, the philosophy absurd by Albert Camus. I mean, there's a ton of them. And I started piecing together my own. And my life immediately, again, dramatically changed for the better. And I was ready to move forward and make some big changes in my life to get where I want to be. Thank you. Part 3 is coming.